There was a small American town tucked between two long stretches of farmland where everyone knew every face and every rivalry felt older than the buildings that line Main Street, and in that town lived Coach Miller, a middle-aged man with tired eyes and a gentle voice who had spent 20 years teaching a youth basketball team not just plays and drills, but humility, kindness, and the quiet strength of choosing the right thing when the wrong thing looked easier. And just across the county line stood another town that had been their rival for as long as anyone remembered, a rivalry so intense that even elementary school kids carried it like inherited armor. And whenever the two youth teams played, the gym filled with the kind of noise that made the walls shake and the air crackle. But the year this story happened, something deeper stirred, because Coach Miller's team finally made it to the regional finals, and the entire town believed this was their year, the year everything would change and trophies would shine in the school cabinet, and families would talk for decades about the victory that ended a long drought. And the boys played with a fire that came from hope, but also from pressure, until the night before the final game, when Coach Miller received a call from the rival town's athletic director saying their star player, a boy named Jason, only 15 years old, had been hit by a car while riding home from practice and was in the hospital in critical condition. And the final game would still go on, but the town was shaken, and Miller sat in his dim kitchen staring at the wall, feeling a heaviness settle over him, because he remembered Jason. He remembered seeing the boy play with a spark that made the whole court look brighter, and he remembered the bitterness between the towns, the harsh words, the taunts, the cold looks exchanged across courts for years. And something in him felt all of it break at once. And the next morning he gathered his team players, buzzing with nervous excitement, their uniforms crisped, their hopes high, and he looked at them not with pride, but with something deeper, a longing for them to understand what winning really meant. And he said quietly, "Boys, something happened last night." And he told them about Jason, about the accident, about the rival town grieving, and he saw their smiles fade, their bodies still, their hearts open. And one of the boys asked softly, "Coach, is he going to be okay?" And Miller shook his head. "Not sure, but they said he's fighting." And the gym was silent, then like a place holding its breath. And finally, Miller said, "We have a choice today, a real one. We can play this game, win or lose, and celebrate something empty, or we can do something that matters, something that will echo longer than a trophy." And he told them what he was thinking, that they would forfeit the final match to go to the hospital as a team and visit Jason and his family, to pray for him if they allowed it to show that rivalry could break under the weight of compassion. And at first the boys stared as though he had spoken another language, because no one forfeited finals, not here, not anywhere. But something in Miller's voice, something steady and grieving, made them understand. And one by one the boys nodded, some with tears forming, others with determination rising like a tide. And they all agreed, even though they knew the town would be furious. And as they walked out of the gym, parents began to crowd around, asking why they were not warming up, why they were leaving. And Miller told them straight, "We're going to the hospital." And though anger sparked, confusion followed. But then slowly hearts softened as the story spread, and the caravan of cars headed toward the hospital, where the rival town had gathered in fearful silence. And when Coach Miller's team entered, parents of the injured boy looked stunned. The enemy had arrived, but not with jerseys ready for battle, instead with hands open and eyes full of trembling kindness. And Miller approached Jason's mother, who looked as though grief had hollowed her overnight, and he said softly, "We came to pray for your son, if that's all right." And tears spilled down her face, because no one expected mercy from the other side. And she nodded, and they all entered the room, where machines beeped and Jason lay still, pale wires taped to his skin. And the boys circled around him, heads bowed, and Coach Miller placed a gentle hand near Jason's arm, not touching, just resting in the space between fear and hope. And he whispered a prayer, not polished, not eloquent, but honest. "God, please give this boy strength. Please bring healing. Please bring peace to both our towns, and let today be the day bitterness dies and the day grace begins." And the room felt different afterward, lighter, as if heaven exhaled. And slowly parents from both towns began talking for the first time in years, not about sports, not about rivalry, but about heartbreak and family and what mattered. And through that doorway, healing began as real as breath. And though Jason's recovery took time, he eventually woke. His first words to his parents were, "Did we win the final?" And they laughed through tears, telling him about the day, and the boy smiled, saying, "That's better than winning." And when he returned months later, leaning on crutches, the two towns stood together in the same gym, cheering not for teams, but for life returning. And Coach Miller saw his players watching unity unfold, and he knew they understood what he had wanted them to see, that sometimes forfeiting is the biggest victory. And years later, when people in both towns told their children about the rivalry, they always paused when they reached the year of the accident, because that was the year everything changed, not because of a trophy, but because a coach chose blessing over winning and showed everyone what love looked like in motion. And if this story reached your heart, please share your reflection in the comments, because someone reading your words may need the hope hidden inside them. And make sure you like this video, share it with those who need a reminder of grace, and subscribe to Faith Light Stories, where every story reminds you that God never leaves us, no matter how fierce the rivalry or how deep the wound. Welcome, dear friend. This is Faith Light Stories, where every story reminds us that God never leaves us. Please like, share, and subscribe.